Alright guys, welcome to this video on factoring with the umbrella and star method. Um, so, this video, the first thing we're going to do is factor out the greatest common factor here. Okay, so I've got 8x squared y cubed plus 16x y squared. So what I'm going to do, okay, is I'm going to write out everything that these have in common, okay? So, if I write everything out, I'm just going to switch here, okay? I got 8 times x times y times y times y plus 16 times x times y times y. So what I can do now is go through and circle what these things have in common. Okay, I know that they have an x in common and they have 2 y's in common. So that's going to be helpful. And then I'm also going to notice that 8 and 16 are both divisible by 8, so I'm going to divide this by 8. So I recognize that I can divide this by 8 and this by 8. When I do, that 8 is going to get circled. So what I can do now is take all of the things that are circled and write them outside of the parentheses. So I would get 8 out here. I have one x circled and I have y circled twice. So y squared. And then inside the parentheses is whatever's left. Okay, so I've got my parentheses here. So what's going to be left is 8 divided by 8 is 1. I have no need to write that, but I have an x and I have a y here. And then on the other one, I have 16 divided by 8 is 2. And everything is circled, so then I am done. So here is the greatest common factoring of that expression. Okay, so don't worry about that. So factoring when a is greater than 1. So what we are learning is how to factor if you cannot remove a greatest common factor, because many quadratic equations can be factored despite not having greatest common factors, and you can factor an equation like 2x squared minus 5x plus 7. That's how you know you'll be successful. So here's an example. We're going to work with this one for the next for my walkthrough problem here. 12, 5, and 2 do not have common factors except with 1. So what we're stuck with is a is greater than 1. So I have 12x squared plus 5x minus 2. We can still factor this using a method called the umbrella method. So umbrella method works like this, okay? I have this beautifully drawn umbrella in here. So 12 times negative 2. So you're going to multiply the first, okay? You're going to multiply the first term, the first coefficient, okay, by the second. Basically, you're multiplying a times c. And a times c, in this case, gets you negative 24. So you're going to draw your x as normal, as we've been doing for factoring. And then you're going to write negative 24 on the top instead of negative 2, okay? Because we had to do 12 times negative 2. So negative 24 is what goes in the top. You write a times c up here. So you are looking for factors that are going to multiply. You're going to look for the factors of negative 24 that add to be positive 5. So with that in mind, I know one of them has to be positive 8x, and one of them has to be negative because the end result is negative. So it's a logical game kind of deal. So I'm going to insert the 12x squared up here and 12x squared here and split 8x and negative 3x as my two factors. Now what's really cool is x and x squared, one of those will always cancel. So you'll know you'll have a fraction with an x on the top and something without an x on the bottom for both of them, okay? So after I get the 8x and negative 3x, which I got, again, by taking the factors of negative 24, that added to 5, positive 8, negative 3 is positive 5. I reduced them. So 12 and 8 have a 4 in common, so I divided a 4 out to get 3x over 2. And I took a 3 out of 12x and 3, so I get 4x over negative 1. And it's important to leave this negative 1 here. So what we get is we rewrite the fractions as factors. So 3x over 2 becomes 3x plus 2. That was why I put the positive sign here. And then 4x over negative 1 turns into 4x minus 1. Now, if you were to go back and FOIL these out, okay, 3x times 4x is 12x squared. 2x times 4x is 8x. 3x times negative 1 is negative 3x. And 2 times negative 1 is negative 1. Combine the 8x and the negative 3x to get that 5x, and negative 2 is on the bend. So we did it. We got the right factors. So here's an example problem. So what I'm going to do is first I'm going to multiply a times c. So 6 times 4. Okay, and I'm making sure I properly note that these are both positive. So that gets me 24. Okay, so with that in mind, okay, now here's where I'm going to draw my x. And to add on to the x, I'm going to just add the fraction bar in the middle. All right, because I know that that's going to happen. So factors of 24 that add to negative 11. So that gives me a clue, okay, that this is positive and this is negative. That tells me that both of these numbers here are going to be negative. And before I search for them, I'm just going to take 6x and I'm going to put it up here. You're probably wondering why not 6x squared. I'm not doing 6x squared because I know that one of the x's is going to cancel. So now I can just focus on the 11. Okay, so negative 11 and 24. Well, I know that I could do 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, and 4 and 6. So 4 and 6 is 10. 2 and 12 is 14. 1 and 24 is 25. But 8 and 3 are going to give me negative 11 when added together. So there's are my two fractions. So I'm going to reduce 6x over negative 3. Each one of these has a 3 in common, so I can take that out, and I would get 2x over negative 1. And it's important to leave it like this for now, okay? So we reduce this one over here. Draw an arrow. That's the reduced version. And over here, these have a 2 in common, so we're going to factor those out. So I get 3x on the top over negative 4 on the bottom. They don't have anything else in common. So now what I can do is I can write those as my factors. So the first one would be 2x minus 1. That's my first factor. And my second factor would be 3x minus 4. Now, the extension of this problem would be this would be equal to 0, okay? And if it's equal to 0, I would use the zero product property to solve these equations. But just double checking, okay? 2x times 3x is 6x squared. Negative 1 times negative 3x is negative 3x squared. 2x times negative 4 is negative 8x squared. So the negative 3x and the negative 8x squared combine to be negative 11x. And negative 1 times negative 4 is positive 4. So we did it. We found the right factors. All right, factor using the umbrella method. So again, remember, we're going to multiply a times c first, okay? Oop, that's a little too much. Take off. So my a looked a little bad there. So a times c is equal to, so 15 times negative 8 is going to be negative 120. All right, so the negative 120 is what's going to go on the top of my, make my x a little bigger, top of my x. And we're going to draw the fraction bar through. All right, and in the middle is 14. So again, I need to know that one of these is positive, one of these is negative. I'm going to insert the 15x here because we know one of the x's will automatically cancel. So I'm going to insert the 15x here. So factors of 120, the ones that come to my mind, 1 and 120, 2 and 60, 3 and 40, 4 and 30, 5 and 20, 5 and 5 and 24, excuse me, 6 and 20. And those are the factors that we're going to, so 6 plus 20 is going to equal 14 if one of them is negative. So if we do positive 20 here and negative 6, we in fact get the two factors of negative 120 that add up to 14. So I can reduce this fraction here. Each one of these has a 5 in common, so I will take out a 5 and get 3x over 4, okay? And it's positive 4, so I want to note that. And 15x over negative 6, 15 and 6 have a 3 in common, so I can divide out a 3. So I get 5x over negative 2. And so now I can go ahead and write those as my factors. 3x plus 4 times 5x minus 2 as my factors. Okay. And that's it, guys. So that's factoring with the umbrella and star method. You know, it's an Xbox and it has a star in the middle of it. It's got that fraction bar. It works every time for ones that you can come up with common factors. So we're going to just continue to practice this, and good luck. See you in the next video.